Hello, everybody. My name is Jack, and I'm a senior here at Hopkins, and I've been asked to provide a short gospel reflection for the first Sunday of Lent. And so in this gospel, St. Luke describes the temptation of Jesus in the desert. And something that always sticks out to me is what seems like the foolishness of Satan trying to tempt Jesus. We know who Jesus is, and so we can recognize this is like a dog offering his cage to his master. It doesn't really make sense. Of course, Jesus would never take him. And so we have to understand that Satan didn't really recognize Christ for who he was. And even his apostles, after his resurrection, don't notice him. They don't notice that who they're talking with. And I know that I would be offended if my friends saw me and talked to me and didn't notice who I was. But Jesus isn't upset by this. He has so much humility that he reveals himself slowly to them again and again. And he doesn't mind having to remind them who he is. And in our own lives, he does this through the Eucharist, because taking on the appearance of bread and wine, he knows that the host will be dropped and the chalice will be spilled, and people might receive him when they don't understand what they're doing, or if they do, they might take it for granted. And he does this so that he can get close to us. He allows it so that he can enter into our lives. And you might imagine what would happen if the Eucharist seemed less ordinary. Maybe people would be too afraid to come to Mass, or they would never receive him because they were too afraid of their own sin. And so he enters into our life in his humility, like a father getting down onto the floor to play with his children, so that he can enter in their ordinary life and they can get closer to him and they can get to know their Father. And so this week and this Lent, I invite you to join me in reflecting on the humility of Christ, both in the Eucharist and in the Church, and praying for the graces of gratitude for all the gifts that we receive and all the ways Jesus has shown up in our lives, and especially for the ones that we don't recognize that it's his working through our life. Thank you.